There comes a moment when one realizes that the universe doesn't always wait for permission to change our lives. It doesn't ask if we are ready or if we fully understand. It simply begins to move things, people, plans, attachments out of our path. And at first, that movement feels harsh, even cruel. You start to wonder what went wrong. You replay conversations, try to fix the distance, and question your worth. But the truth is that nothing is being taken from you as punishment. Everything is being rearranged for your awakening. When the universe removes people, it is not to harm you, it is to return you to yourself. But what does that mean? It means that sometimes we build our identity around the people we love. We begin to see ourselves through their opinions, their needs, their approval. When they leave, those borrowed parts of us leave too. And that emptiness we feel is not a loss, but a chance to discover who we are without the masks we once wore. Many people don't notice it at first, but over time it becomes clear. The absence of certain people creates the space we need to remember our own strength. Life removes those who no longer match the frequency of our growth. It's not betrayal, it's alignment. Before awakening, we meet people who serve as mirrors. They reflect our fears, our habits, and the lessons we must learn. But mirrors are not meant to be kept forever. Once we understand what they show us, the reflection changes. And when the mirror changes, the relationship often fades. If this is happening to you, try not to chase what is leaving. Instead, pause and ask, what is this absence teaching me? Maybe it's independence. Maybe it's self-respect. Maybe it's the courage to be alone until you realize that you are never truly alone. Eventually, you begin to see that the universe removes what blocks your awareness of the truth. Sometimes we can't wake up in the same environment that kept us asleep. The familiar comfort, the routines, even the people we depend on, they all hold a certain vibration. And when your awareness begins to rise, you naturally move away from what no longer resonates with who you are becoming. This transition hurts because we confuse comfort with connection. We believe that staying close to what is familiar keeps us safe, but awakening requires freedom, not safety. And freedom sometimes means letting go of everything that once defined you. It becomes obvious that every ending carries wisdom inside it. We don't always see it while the heart is breaking, but later, in silence, we begin to understand. The universe doesn't remove anyone who is meant to stay. Those who belong to your path will walk beside you without force. You won't need to beg for their attention or prove your value. What is real never demands struggle to exist. As awareness grows, your energy shifts. And because energy attracts its equal, those who live in denial or fear will no longer feel comfortable around you. They might drift away, not because you rejected them, but because your vibration no longer fits the old pattern. This can feel like loneliness, but it's actually purification. It's the shedding of everything false. When people leave, they take with them the versions of yourself that depended on their presence. You grieve, not just the person, but the identity that existed through that connection. That grief is sacred. It is the doorway through which your soul begins to breathe freely again. Awareness shows you that the universe removes distractions before revelation. It empties the room before introducing truth. You may lose friends, relationships, jobs, even dreams, but what truly leaves is illusion. What remains is what was real all along, your consciousness, your peace, your essence. And this is why trying to hold on brings more pain. When we cling, we resist the natural rhythm of transformation. Letting go does not mean we stop loving. It means we stop trying to control how love must look. It means we allow life to move as it must, trusting that whatever leaves our hands was never ours to begin with. Many people think awakening is about gaining light, but it begins with losing weight, the weight of dependence, of roles, of expectations. This loss is not the universe being cruel. It's the universe cleaning the space within you where truth will eventually live. So if you find yourself standing in an empty space right now, surrounded by silence, don't mistake it for punishment. It's preparation. The silence is the ground where new awareness will grow. Every person who left has given you a gift, even if it came wrapped in pain. They showed you what needed healing, what needed freedom, and what needed to end so that your awakening could begin. And one day, when peace finally replaces confusion, you'll understand what the universe was doing all along. Nothing was truly lost. Everything was being rearranged so that you could finally return, not to them, but to yourself. When something or someone disappears from your life, the first instinct is to hold on, to fix, to chase, to bring it back. We tell ourselves that if we can just explain, apologize, or understand enough, things will return to how they were. But life doesn't move backward, it only expands. There comes a point when awareness teaches you that the universe never takes anything without giving something deeper in return. But what it gives you first is emptiness. And that emptiness is not a punishment, it's a sacred pause. It's the space where transformation begins. At first, that space feels unbearable. You wake up in the morning and notice the silence. No messages, no familiar voice, no routine that once gave structure to your day. It feels like something has died. And in a way, something has. The version of you that needed external approval to feel whole. Many people fear this space and rush to fill it again. They look for new distractions, new relationships, new goals. But awareness shows you that when you rush to fill the silence, you miss the message it's trying to deliver. Silence is not empty. It's full of everything that wants to be understood. So what is the silence trying to say when someone leaves your life? It says, listen. Listen to the part of you that was hidden beneath all the noise. Listen to the energy that was trying to speak through discomfort long before the ending came. Because endings rarely come out of nowhere. They are often the echoes of truths we've ignored. It becomes clear that every removal is also a revelation. When someone disappears, they take with them the illusion that you needed them to feel complete. And in that absence, you begin to rediscover the forgotten parts of yourself, your inner strength, your ability to love without attachment, your quiet resilience. The universe removes people not to leave you empty, but to create room for the next chapter of your evolution. It can feel cruel when you don't see the bigger picture, but once your awareness expands, you start to understand that everything leaving your life is simply returning to where it belongs, and everything meant for you will always find its way back in divine timing. Many don't realize that energy moves before the physical does. Before people drift away, their energy often begins to misalign with yours. You may feel distant, unseen, or out of rhythm, and that's the universe whispering. Something is changing. We tend to ignore that whisper because we fear loss more than stagnation. But life doesn't fear change. It thrives on it. To awaken is to begin trusting that what leaves your life is not working against you, but for you. Even pain becomes a teacher when seen through awareness. Pain says, look closer. Pain says, you were depending on something fragile. Pain says, you outgrew what you were holding on to. When you listen deeply, pain turns into clarity. Eventually, you begin to see that every loss has a rhythm. It arrives, creates stillness, and then opens a new path. But that rhythm can't be heard by a mind that's still resisting. It can only be understood by a heart that has stopped fighting what is. Resistance is what turns endings into suffering. Awareness turns them into transformation. Resistance says, this shouldn't have happened. Awareness says, it was always going to happen, and it's okay. When you stop arguing with reality, the healing begins on its own. There's a quiet intelligence behind every change in your life, Some call it destiny, others call it divine timing. But in truth, it's the same force that moves the stars. It's the natural intelligence of existence. When someone leaves, that force is not breaking your story. It's simply editing the parts that no longer belong to the new version of you. You see, awakening is not only about light and peace, it's also about endings. It's about the slow dismantling of false identities. It's about seeing where you have been living from fear instead of awareness, and learning to let that fear dissolve. People who leave before your awakening often carry lessons you were meant to learn, but not live in forever. Maybe they taught you love, but also attachment. Maybe they showed you joy, but also dependency. Maybe they mirrored your pain so that you could finally recognize it and release it. Once the lesson is integrated, the soul no longer needs the classroom. That's why holding on can sometimes block growth. Imagine trying to breathe while holding your breath. You can't receive new air if your lungs are full of the old. In the same way, you can't receive new relationships, new peace, new awareness if your heart is still clinging to what has already left. Awakening asks for surrender, not as defeat, but as trust. Trust that there's meaning even when you can't see it yet. Trust that the space you feel now will one day be filled with something beautiful, something aligned, something real. The universe has a rhythm, and it's always moving toward balance. Even your pain is part of that balance. You begin to realize that what is truly yours doesn't need control. You don't have to chase it, convince it, or fight to keep it. What is aligned with your soul will stay effortlessly, because it vibrates on the same frequency as your truth. Everything else will fade, and that fading is not failure, it's liberation. Awareness teaches that loss and freedom are not opposites. They are two sides of the same transformation. The moment you stop clinging to what's fading, freedom begins to breathe again. It's not that love disappears, it just stops needing possession to exist. When you awaken, your relationship with life changes completely. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you begin to ask, "What is this trying to reveal through me?" This question shifts everything, because life is not against you. It's teaching you how to see without fear. There comes a time when you begin to understand that every person, no matter how temporary, played a role in your awakening. Even the ones who hurt you were showing you where you needed boundaries, self-respect, and healing. Even those who left without goodbye were teaching you to find closure within yourself. And this is what it means when people say, the universe removes them to return you to yourself. It means life will take away everything that made you forget your own light. It will remove the noise that drowned your intuition. It will strip away the false identities you built to be loved. And though it feels like destruction, it's actually purification. Eventually you stop asking, why did they leave? And start understanding why you needed to stay. You see that every departure brought you closer to truth, closer to stillness, closer to your own being. The emptiness that once scared you becomes peace. The silence that once hurt becomes home. When you look back, you won't see random losses. You'll see divine choreography. You'll see how everything that left your life made space for a higher awareness to enter. You'll see that what felt like separation was actually the start of union with something far greater than any single person. Union with existence itself. So, if you are in that phase now, where everything feels like it's falling apart, remember, this is how awakening begins. It begins with endings. It begins with emptiness. It begins with the quiet realization that the universe is not destroying your life. It's rebuilding it from truth. In that silence, you are not lost. You are being found. And the one finding you is not someone else. It's the real you, the one that has been waiting beneath all the noise, ready to awaken. And one day, when peace finally replaces confusion, you'll understand what the universe was doing all along. Nothing was truly lost. Everything was being rearranged so that you could finally return, not to them, but to yourself. At some point, you stop searching for reasons and start feeling the quiet truth beneath everything that has happened. The truth that what was removed from your life did not break you, it shaped you. Every ending was a doorway. Every silence was an invitation to listen more deeply. And every loss was a teacher disguised as absence. There comes a moment when one realizes that the people who left were not taken by chance. Their departure carried wisdom that words could never give. They came to awaken something within you, to trigger the cracks where light could finally enter. When the universe removes people, it's not erasing love, it's refining it. It's teaching you how to love without control, how to care without possession, how to remain open even when everything inside you wants to close. Most of us learn love through attachment first. We cling, we grasp, we depend. But eventually, awareness shows that real love asks for space. It breathes in freedom, not in fear. When you love someone, you want to keep them close. But when you awaken, you start to understand that keeping them close doesn't always mean holding them physically. Sometimes love means releasing them so they can walk their own path, even if that path no longer includes you. That realization feels heavy at first, but it's also the beginning of unconditional love, the kind that no longer depends on outcome. Many people confuse love with ownership. They believe that loving someone means keeping them forever. But awareness reveals that love was never meant to be a cage. It was always meant to be a bridge. You meet, you connect, you grow, and then sometimes you must let each other go. Not because love has died, but because it has fulfilled its purpose in that form. The universe removes people before your awakening because it knows you cannot expand while holding on to what was meant to stay small. You cannot move into higher awareness while your energy is still tied to someone who lives in fear or limitation. This is not judgment, it's vibration. Every soul moves at its own pace. And when two paths no longer align, separation is simply the universe restoring balance. It becomes clear that letting go is not rejection, it's recognition. Recognition that love can exist without needing to control it. Recognition that peace can exist without everyone understanding you. Recognition that your journey continues even when others choose to stay behind. If you pay attention, you'll notice that life often gives gentle warnings before it removes something completely. Moments of tension, inner unease, repeating signs that whisper, "This no longer fits." But we rarely listen because we fear emptiness. We don't realize that emptiness is not the opposite of fullness. It's the beginning of it. It's the canvas on which new life begins to paint itself. Eventually, you begin to see that the universe never removes love. It removes illusions around it. It takes away what was never aligned, so you can feel what is real. It dismantles false stories, so that truth can stand naked in its place. And the truth is this: you were never missing anything. What you thought you lost was simply returning to source, making space for your awakening. The pain of separation softens once you see its purpose. The energy that once felt like chaos begins to flow again, this time with clarity. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen?" but "What did this teach me about myself?" That shift changes everything. You begin to thank life, even for what once hurt, because it all served your awakening. It all brought you closer to who you truly are. Awareness teaches that love is not about holding, it's about seeing. To love someone truly is to see them without needing to change them. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to let them go when their path diverges from yours. It's not abandonment, it's respect for divine timing. Every soul has its own moment of awakening, and you cannot awaken for someone else. When you finally stop resisting, something miraculous happens. Peace arrives, not the kind of peace that depends on perfect circumstances, but a peace that remains even in imperfection. You begin to trust that what leaves was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal what cannot be destroyed: your awareness, your essence, your connection to life itself. You see, awakening is not about escaping pain. It's about transforming your relationship with it. Instead of asking for life to stop changing, you begin to move with its rhythm. You stop fearing endings because you understand that endings are how life breathes. The inhale brings people in, and the exhale lets them go. Both are sacred, both are necessary, and this is what freedom truly means. Not to avoid loss, but to no longer fear it. To know that even when everything external shifts, your inner being remains whole. You are no longer defined by who stays or who leaves. You are defined by awareness itself, which holds everything without clinging to anything. Eventually, you start to look at your life differently. You see the pattern, the precision, the grace hidden behind every removal. The friendships that faded taught you boundaries. The relationships that broke taught you self-worth. The loneliness that once suffocated you taught you how to breathe in stillness. And slowly, gratitude replaces grief. The people who left were not enemies of your growth. They were catalysts for it. They were the mirrors that showed you what was unhealed. And once you saw it, their purpose was complete. That's why the universe moved them, not to punish either of you, but to realign both souls with truth. Sometimes separation is how two people evolve in ways that unity never could. Awakening shows you that love doesn't end. It changes form. What once existed as attachment becomes compassion. What once felt like longing becomes peace. You no longer need to hold anyone to love them. You can love silently, without demand, without control. And that kind of love never fades because it flows directly from awareness itself. So when you think about the people who are no longer in your life, bless them. They were part of your journey, and you were part of theirs. Each of you played a divine role in the awakening of the other. There is no betrayal in this, only completion. You begin to realize that awakening is not a destination, but a continual unfolding. Every time something leaves, something deeper arrives. Every time you release control, more peace enters. And every time you surrender, the universe reveals a truth that was waiting behind the noise. Now you understand, what the universe removes is never truly gone. Its essence transforms into wisdom, strength, and clarity within you. You carry the lesson, not the loss. You carry the love, not the longing. You carry the light, not the shadow. The universe doesn't take away to punish. It takes away to prepare. It removes the temporary to reveal the eternal. It closes certain doors so that you finally notice the one that has been open all along, the door within. And when you walk through that door, you see that nothing was ever missing. Not the people, not the moments, not the love. Everything has simply changed shape, guiding you back to the same realization that what you were seeking outside was always waiting in the silence of your own awareness. That is the gift hidden in every loss. That is why the universe removes people before your awakening, so that when you finally awaken, you realize you were never losing them. You were finding yourself. And one day, when peace finally replaces confusion, you'll understand what the universe was doing all along. Nothing was truly lost. Everything was being rearranged so that you could finally return, not to them, but to yourself.